Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be showcasing Khamzat Chimaev, and this was after he received the buff for his crazy fight against Gilbert Burns. I mean, that fight was insane, start to finish, one of the best fights I've ever seen, especially for a 3-round fight. This was requested by a real OG subscriber, B Syndicate. Shout out to you, bro. Thank you for the kind words and thank you for requesting this video. Sorry it took a while to get out. I was just making sure I had the right gameplay to showcase Khamzat to his fullest potential. I like to showcase, hard matchups, and that's exactly what we're going to have in both of these gameplay clips here. So, in the first gameplay clip, we're going to be facing a Luke player, and this is in Division 20 from last season, and in the second gameplay clip it's going to be Division 19 from this season, and that gameplay was recorded live on stream last night. So shout out to everyone that watched, and just a big thank you to everyone that's been supporting the content as of recently, whether that's the streams or the videos. Shout out to you guys for liking and leaving comments suggesting what videos to make. I really appreciate all of that, and I do try to get around to recording all those videos. So if you ever do leave a comment about a particular type of video, don't think it goes unnoticed. I am working on those videos constantly. It's just sometimes I have other videos that are already in the works, so it pushes your recommendation or content suggestions that I say a little bit further back. But yeah, definitely getting around to recording all the videos that you guys are commenting. I know that a big one's been the Brian Ortega video, so I'm really going to try to get that out. That should be hopefully in the next couple of uploads. But yeah, just want to say thank you for all the support. Shout out to the new subscribers, and don't forget, if you enjoy the content, to leave a like and subscribe if you are new and want to see more regular UFC 4 content. But getting into the actual gameplay, you can see that, of course, because it's in the highest division, it's a 5-round fight. I'm in Division 20, so all fights are going to be 5 rounds. Stamina management is going to be extremely important, especially when using a wrestler, because whenever I'm shooting for takedowns and they get denied, my stamina is going to be zapped. And coming up against Luke, I need the fight to get onto the ground, which is exactly why I shot for the takedown early in round 1. I know that my opponent had previously taken me down in this round, but I feel like that was more my opponent was going to jab to the body, accidentally held L2 for too long, and then ended up getting the takedown. But nevertheless, my opponent done a little bit of work off the ground, and then Luke opted to stand up, which is the right thing to do. You can see here that Luke again trying to get to his feet, but ragdolled him back to the ground, tries to get to his feet again, and then opt to take his back. And Khamzat, of course, got a nice little buff after the Burns fight, and that's deservedly so. Both of them got nice buffs, and now you can see that they're used a lot more commonly in the division now. I can't think of a session now when I'm not on ranked and I'm not coming up against Gilbert Burns every 10 seconds. Khamzat Chimaev not so much, but definitely Gilbert Burns. I feel like just because of how fast and powerful Burns is, people like to use him a lot more, and he's very good if you're good on the feet and just want to look to anti-grapple. Gilbert Burns is very good for that, so I think that's why he's predominantly used. Whereas Khamzat Chimaev, although now he's a lot better on the feet, feels a lot smoother, feels a lot faster, and can definitely hold his own against some of the best in the division. I definitely wouldn't stand when you're fighting with some of the elite in the division, for instance like Wonderboy Thompson, Leon Edwards, Jorge Masvidal. I definitely would recommend to implement a more ground-heavy grappling approach. But that being said, against some of the fighters that are just cusping the elite, for instance, Gilbert Burns, you can definitely look to stand with the likes of Burns, Bilal Muhammad, other wrestlers, Colby Covington. You can definitely stand with Khamzat just because of the power that Khamzat transmits in the punches. In terms of kicking arsenal, not the greatest. I mean, you can throw a leg kick here and there just to off-put your opponent. I was trying to mimic how he was striking in the Gilbert Burns fight. You can see that whenever Burns landed a solid leg kick, which he did on a couple of occasions, that Khamzat Chimaev would return with a leg kick, and you can definitely see that Khamzat's got the facilities to land good leg kicks and got the power there. So it's something that I do try to implement here and there when using Khamzat. But predominantly, like I said, in this matchup here where Luke's got a lot of power, I've got to be careful when I'm really looking to trade, because if I get in the the wrong trade with Luque, I could get put to sleep, which is why you will see that I will adopt a grappling approach where need be, just to really tire out Luque, grind him down. Done a good job of it in the first round, especially when we got onto Luque's back and was landing good strikes, because those are little things you got to do. You can't give up your back against someone like Khamzat, who's going to wear you down, stay on top of you, look to throw a lot of ground and pound damage, and then potentially finish off with a submission, because Khamzat's got incredibly good submissions. So that's exactly what I'm going to look to do. You will see that I'm going to be mixing it up. I will utilise Khamzat's stand-up. Of course, I'm going to be looking to go to the body to tire out Luque. You can see go for the takedown attempt there, doesn't work. Land a lead body roundhouse. Movement is one thing that I've noticed was a lot better on Khamzat. I'm not even sure if it's something that was buffed, but Khamzat just feels very, very smooth compared to what he used to feel like before. I feel like a lot of people had issues with using Khamzat prior to the buff, just because he felt very stiff, and it felt like your only avenue for success really was to take your opponents down and absolutely smash them to pieces. Whereas now, with the new buff, I feel like you can really hold your own in the stand-up, and if you're someone that likes to strike, you can look to brawl out with Khamzat Chimaev. So you can see that the damage is definitely adding up here. Luque's gone to ground a couple times. Head health isn't in the greatest positions, but this is exactly what my opponent should be doing with Luque, is pressuring, staying in that boxing range. Whenever it's in kickboxing range, should be landing calf kicks and switch kicks, but just because of the threat of the power, it's putting Luque off a little bit here. 28 seconds to go in this round, and this is another round well done. This should be 2 rounds to me. My opponent, you see the stamina flashes there, goes to hit with a big overhand, and stamina flashes again. So I know that Luque's stamina isn't in the best position, but he's really trying to work my body, which is the exact right thing to do, as we get another knockdown there. So big second round in terms of damage done. Definitely done, you know, a lot more damage than Luque has done to me. In the third round now, I land a takedown straight away. So this is something that I like to do, is really mix it up. Obviously in the round prior to this one, in the second round, it was a predominant stand-up round, and you can really see that coming out into round 3, that Luque thought that it was going to be another round where we're just standing, but I instantly get the takedown, and this is where you've got to really mix it up. And with Khamzat Chimaev, you can have the tools to do that, because he does have that power on the feet. He doesn't have the combinations necessarily to, you know, really inflict some of the damage that someone like Leon Edwards could do, or Wonderboy Thompson, in terms of the speed and just chaining combinations together. However, you can really intercept your opponent coming into range just because of how powerful Khamzat is, and you can also really punish your opponent if they're missing out on big strikes. Like if they miss a roundhouse, you can land a hook to the body or hook to the head, and it will do significant damage. But it's very important to filter in your own takedown attempts to keep them guessing and keep them worrying about the takedowns. You can see Luque done a good job there of reversing the position and winding up on top. And this is the only area I think that Khamzat isn't particularly the strongest in, and it's why the next matchup will be rather good for you guys to watch, is in terms of being on bottom. When he's on the mat, when he's not on top of his opponent, when he's forced to fight off his back, is when I think Khamzat Chimaev is probably at his worst position, especially if you have someone that's elite on top of you. For instance, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns, these types of guys. If you have them on top of you, Damian Maia as well, if you have them on top of you and you're using Khamzat, you might be in a bit of trouble, just because off his back he can't offer too much offensively. His submissions are good, however, I wouldn't say they're, you know, the greatest when it comes to being off his back. He's definitely got the advantage when he's on top. You know, you can look for stuff like the arm triangles. You've also got the rear naked chokes. You've got the guillotines. Well, the rear naked choke would be off his back, but it's a different sort of position. It's back sitting, where you're in the dominant position. Whereas when he's on his back, you've only got to really catch them in like stuff like arm triangles and arm bars, which Khamzat Chimaev doesn't really excel in. The submissions don't feel the greatest, but yeah, that's the only real weakness I'd say he's got. He's very good in the clinch also. which is something that I'm not really utilising too much in either of these gameplays. But if you clinch up with your opponent just because of the reach he has, it's quite easy to clinch with them. You can land a lot of devastating knees and a lot of good hooks to their heads, and then work towards the cage, and then, you know, chain wrestle from then on and throughout. So that's something that can also be utilised. Again, just want to emphasise, the only real weakness I feel is when he's off his back. However, that doesn't mean he's not, you know, the greatest off of his back. You can still look to do a lot of work off of your back with Khamzat, and that's something that I'm going to try to showcase in this gameplay here against Gilbert Burns. So very early on we get the stun. This opponent has beat me before. He's in Division 17 right now as it stands, but yeah, got a win over me at some point, maybe last season. But goes for the head kick with Burns. We duck, get the stun, and then get the takedown. And this is real dangerous because Burns is obviously phenomenal when it comes to being on his back. He's very, very comfortable, got very good transition. So the way I approach this fight is going to be extremely different to how I approach, let's say, fighting Kamaru Usman. So if I got Kamaru Usman on his back, then I'm not really worried at all about any threat of submission. Kamaru's obviously got good reversals, which is something that I may have to worry about here and there, but it's definitely not on the level of Gilbert Burns. And you can see that I'm not quite sure what happened there, but when I was on top, I tried to transition to side control. Something got messed up with the animation, and it ended up delaying my, not side control, sorry, my crucifix attempt. And then because Burns has very good reversals, I ended up reversing the position, and then ended up on top. So yeah, that was extremely unfortunate. We ended up getting obviously back onto the feet. Burns was against the cage. I threw the leg kick just to trap, no, I think I threw the roundhouse to trap my opponent's animation, just to make sure that Burns couldn't go left or right. Keeps him nice and in the middle. Then I shoot for a takedown, the power takedown, pick him up and slam him. And that's where you've really got to utilise the cage to your advantage. I'd always suggest that when you have whoever you're fighting against, say for in this instance I've got Burns, whenever I've got Burns against the fence and I'm using someone that's a very good grappler like Khamzat, I'm always going to throw a leg kick or roundhouse to stop them moving either left or right, because anyone that's in the higher divisions know that once you get up against that cage, it's very easy to get a takedown because there's a lot of ways to get the takedown. So I throw the leg kick or the roundhouse just to stop them in their stride, and then I shoot a power takedown. And then off that, 99% of the time I get the takedown, and it's just an easy way to get the fight onto the ground, and it's something that I don't think people utilise a lot of, so that's definitely something I'd recommend utilising. Got the fight back onto the ground here. We're getting some good deniers in. Whenever we're throwing ground and pound, I'm going to be very, very selective with what I throw, just because I am against Gilbert Burns. I don't want to get reversed, and I don't want to drain stamina, just purely because Burns has a lot of deadly submissions off his back. He's got the Kimura, which is something that I've got to be very wary of, because if I'm in half guard, I'm posturing up, looking to throw, you know, a lot of heavy shots, drain my stamina. He catches me in that Kimura, it could be over. Also, when throwing ground and pound, he could sway his head left or right, get a transition to get up, or just reverse the position in general. But start of the second round here, you can see that Burns is actually the one that shoots for the takedown, which again, this isn't very surprising. In this matchup here, if I was my opponent, I would definitely be looking to take Khamzat Chimaev to the ground and look to submit Khamzat, just because I feel like Burns has such a big advantage when it comes to being on top of the ground, especially where Khamzat doesn't necessarily have the best bottom game, and Burns is obviously extremely dominant from the top position. But you can see this is where the risk comes into it, because he had me on the ground, then gets reversed, and then I take his back, get on top of his back, and now I'm inflicting some ground and pound damage and really just riding out this position. Does a good job, my opponent here, of getting back into half guard, but what he has essentially done is allow me to get on top without having to shoot a takedown, which is very good, because I haven't had to drain that stamina. I've got the stamina advantage definitely in this fight right now. I'm just going to look to be very selective with my strikes, because this is probably the worst matchup for Khamzat is this Burns, and this is all I come up against now is predominantly Gilbert Burns. When you play the welterweight division, I'd say that you come up against Burns and Leon Edwards the most whenever you come into the welterweight divisions. But this is definitely the hardest matchup for Khamzat, just because even on the feet, Burns has so much power, is a lot faster really than Khamzat. You can really feel the speed difference there. Deny the first transition in the rubber guard, which again, this is an extremely good thing to have as Gilbert Burns, is that you've got the rubber guard there, so it's quite easy to reverse position. I denied the first transition, which would have been to side control, and then Burns done a good job of rotating me and getting into top mount. However, just staying patient, ended up getting out of that position, and now I've got Burns into full guard, and I'm not as worried. As soon as I get Burns into full guard, you know, I've got the half guard sweep. I've just got to wait to get a deny off, and then I can rotate the position and look to start inflicting some ground and pounds. You can see denied there, and then straight into half guard. That sweep is very, very good and very hard to deny, and it gives a lot of people problems. So that's definitely one of the best sweeps, especially from full guard. So another good round there. Obviously got tested a lot more because my opponent had taken me down, and you know, we showed what Khamzat could do off of his back with the reversal and then getting into a more dominant position. Into round 3 now, and I'm hoping that because of the work done in round 2 off the bottom and getting the reversals, it slightly makes Burns more hesitant in shooting takedowns, because like I said, although there was good work done off of my back in terms of, you know, transitioning into better positions, getting good deniers and getting good reversals, I still do not want Burns on top, just because there's always the threat of that submission, and you know, in a 5-round fight you're bound to get tired eventually. I don't want to get into a position where I'm tired and Burns is in side control and then can get an easy transition to the crucifix or get the Kimura, get the armbar from side saddle. You know, Burns has a lot of tools that he can utilize on the ground from the top position, and yeah, I don't feel as comfortable as I was saying with Khamzat on the bottom. So definitely gonna be looking to stay away from that. Shoot a takedown here, because I've got the stamina advantage, ended up getting it, and then you can see instantly goes for the Kimura. Burns does, and this is the extreme danger of facing someone like Gilbert Burns, is that no matter where you take the fight, Burns is going to be comfortable. I mean, Burns is a very complete fighter. Khamzat's complete. It's just, I think that his bottom game isn't the best, and you don't really want someone like Burns on top of you in general. So even when I'm shooting for these takedowns, I've got to be very, very careful, because I can end up getting the takedown, have no stamina, and like what just happened there, Burns can go for a Kimura attempt. Luckily, the submission defense held through, and I got out of the position, but that's purely because that Burns had no stamina, and there was a big stamina difference between both of us, so it was going to be a lot easier for me to get out of that submission attempt anyway. But I don't want it to be one of those things where I shoot for a takedown and he catches me in like a guillotine or something along those lines, because then it's going to be extremely hard to get out of it. So picking and choosing when to shoot for takedowns is something that you've got to be very cautious of when using Khamzat against an elite level grappler. It's like when you fight any elite level grapplers, you've got to be very careful with how you approach and what steps you take in order to get the fight onto the ground. I'd still say that against someone like Burns, the best route to get the fight to the ground would be against the cage, just because it minimizes that threat of the denials having a bigger impact on you. So for instance, if he denies a takedown on the cage, he might just rotate the position and then be in the more dominant position in the clinch. Or if you're going for a turn-in takedown against the cage, it might just lead to Burns, you know, pushing you off, and then you're back onto the octagon, back onto your feet, and then working again. Whereas if I shoot for a takedown on just in the middle of the octagon, he can sprawl and then he's in a dominant position. He can deny and then get the clinch and then shoot for a takedown or a clinch submission. It's very, very different getting a takedown denied against the cage than it is to being in the center of the octagon. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't really realize, is that the threat of offense from getting a takedown denial in the middle of the octagon is completely different from the threat against the cage, which is why predominantly I go for cage takedowns unless I'm feeling the pressure or the timing feels right. For instance, if I stun Burns and I know that my opponent isn't going to be really thinking about, oh, okay, I need to deny this takedown, I'll often shoot for a takedown. Or if just the window of opportunity is there, like I slip a punch and I feel that my opponent isn't throwing an uppercut on me, I'll dive straight into a double leg. But yeah, so you've got to be very careful when shooting for takedowns against Burns. Like I said, this is a nightmare matchup for Khamzat. It is the worst matchup possible in this division. I can't think of any worse. I mean, Burns is so dominant now, lightning fast and phenomenal ground game. So go for a takedown here against the cage and end up getting the takedown straight into side control. And it's very important to familiarize yourself with other fighters' transition. So for instance, Burns has the sweep to full guard. Burns has every sweep possible basically, so I've always got to be very cautious when on the ground with Gilbert Burns. And you can see that when Burns sprawled, got the deny, I opted just to get up because I didn't want to get reversed into side control or pushed onto the fence and then allow for Burns to work me and then potentially get a takedown. I'd rather get up by myself and then start to rework the position, throw some hands and see if I can land a takedown again in the future. But yeah, so far so good. It's been a very good fight. Burns is obviously still very dangerous, still transmits all the power in through the later rounds. Still got very good kicks. You can see that Burns has slowly drifted off from throwing the leg kicks that Burns was throwing earlier on in the rounds, which was an extremely good tactic, but I started to check Burns' kicks and you can see that it's definitely had an impact on the play style in which Burns has chosen to use. You can see that whenever I'm stepping into that boxing range, Burns is flat-footed, standing still, really looking to let rip a 4-punch combination to break through the block and do a lot of damage, which is something I'm very cautious of. Throws the head kick, which something that Burns has been doing throughout this fight is throw the head kicks, and it's something that I've definitely taken note of, and I'm going to try a duck where possible. Obviously that head kick was just extremely out of range, so there was no need to duck. I tried to retaliate with a head kick of my own, but it was a good block from Burns. You can see the fight is at a slower pace, at the pace I wanted. You can see that in round 1, the way Burns came out was very, very high pressure pace. A lot of combinations, a lot of good work to the legs after the takedown attempts and the checks, and you know, just building that respect. You can see that the fight style's completely changed and it's now in a style more suited to me, because when Burns was pushing forwards, being very explosive is very, very difficult to deal with. And coming into round 5, I wasn't sure how the fight was being scored, to be honest with you. You never know with the judges. It's very realistic because the judges in real life sometimes don't know what they're doing, and I feel like that is the case for the game sometimes. So I wasn't sure how to play this round. I didn't know if I needed to go for a finish. I definitely wanted to win the round, which was extremely important to me, and I knew that my opponent, I knew that Burns definitely wanted to win the round as well. So I knew that if one of us gets a knockdown, realistically that round's won. So you can see that I'm trying to exchange here, getting into these big exchanges. My fault there, guy, for the teep kick. He lands his kick, ends up dropping me. I thought he was going to go to the ground there, but Burns opted not to. Shoot here for a takedown and get it. That is crucial. And again, this is why I always get the takedowns against the fence. You can see that the success rate's slightly higher, and you know, it just pays off. So that's a takedown. The judges are now going to see that, you know, I landed a takedown, building up some control time, and now I'm hoping to build up some ground and pound. It's also extremely dangerous here because if he gets into the rubber guards, Burns can then rotate the position and then just see out the round on top and potentially cruise his way into winning this round. And I was so worried about the rubber guard that Burns ended up taking my back, and this is a nightmare position to be in with how long we've got left in this fight. I think it's around 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Yeah, this is the worst position to be in. You can see going for the rear naked choke, which is super, super strong. Done a good job of defending it. Burns opts to cancel that submission, goes for it again. And here's where I thought, oh, okay, he's just going to complete you know, he's just going to start going for these attempts, cancelling, going for the attempts, cancelling, just to drain my stamina, and then eventually get the submission finish. However, right now I'm just staying patient. Khamzat's submission defense is very good. Obviously, Burns' submission offense is very good, but just staying patient here. End up getting out of the position and then end up in a dominant position here in side control. So that was perfect for me. Got out of the attempts there, now in a dominant position, and I can look to build up some damage of my own and secure this round. But Burns doing a good job of getting out of the crucifix there. Get into this position. I'm going to look to throw some ground and pound, but I don't want to get reversed, so I think I opt to get up here, get back onto the feet, and you'll see what happens with around 30 seconds left to go. So as this fight here is playing now, as you can see, he misses a big roundhouse there. I just want to say a huge thank you to all the support that everyone's been showing on the streams, on the videos. So shout out to all of you guys. It really means a lot. Thank you for, I think I've hit 300 subscribers as the time of this going out, so thank you for 300 subscribers. Sorry if my voice sounds a little weird throughout recording this. I've got a nosebleed, so I've got tissue on my nose, so I'm not sure if that's affecting the commentary. So if it has, I apologise for that. But yeah, look forward to the next video. Sorry that this video took so long to get out, but hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, and if you are new, subscribe for more UFC 4 content, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.